The arrival. The Galactic Council chamber was never silent. It was always full of voices, whispers, and arguments between hundreds of alien nations. But on this day, the chamber grew quiet, so quiet that even the air seemed heavy. For the first time in history, Earth had been invited. The galaxy expected peaceful diplomats, men and women who would bow, smile, and speak carefully. After all, Earth was young compared to the great empires only just stepping into the stars. The council believed they would arrive nervous, eager to please, desperate to be accepted. But when the doors opened, everything changed. A group of humans walked in, not in robes of peace, not in ceremonial uniforms, but in dark business suits. Their shoes clicked against the polished floor, each step sharp and precise. They walked in perfect formation like predators moving through a jungle. The aliens shifted in their seats, antennae twitching, scales shivering, wings folding. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. These were not the faces of humble diplomats. Their eyes scanned the chamber with calm calculation. Their expressions were not soft but hard, like stone carved by war. When they reached the center, they did not bow. They did not greet with flowery words. They simply stood, straight and unshaken. The council leader, a tall insectoid with silver mandibles, cleared his throat. "Welcome, representatives of Earth," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We are honored by your presence." The humans did not smile. Their leader, a man with sharp eyes and a voice like steel, only nodded. "We are here," he said, "to discuss terms." The words struck the chamber like a blade. Terms? Not pleas, not requests, but terms. The aliens exchanged nervous looks. This was not how young races spoke. This was how conquerors spoke. One elder alien leaned to another and whispered, "Why do they look like hunters? They wear no weapons, yet they feel armed." The other replied, "Their suits are their armor. Their silence is their weapon." The human delegation began to move slowly around the chamber, not wandering, not curious, but watching. Every gaze felt like a weight. Every glance felt like a predator sizing up prey. The council leader shifted uncomfortably, mandibles clicking. "You come seeking membership, yes?" he asked carefully. The human leader's lips curved into something that was not a smile. "We come seeking position," he replied, "and position is not given, it is taken." The chamber froze. The words were clear, the message sharper than any blade. One alien delegate, furious, rose to his feet. "Do you dare threaten this council?" he shouted. The humans turned to him slowly, their eyes cold. The leader stepped forward, his polished shoes echoing in the silence. "Threat?" he asked softly. "No, we do not threaten, we state reality." The alien sat back down, trembling. The chamber's silence grew heavier. For the first time, many realized they were not facing diplomats at all. They were facing something else entirely. Stories of Earth had spread before, rumors of wars, of nations that had burned each other for centuries, of survival on a world full of storms, beasts, and endless conflict. Now, seeing them here, the rumors no longer felt like stories. They felt like warnings. Warnings the galaxy had ignored. One young alien whispered, "They smile like us, they talk like us, but inside, they are predators." The elder beside him nodded, "And predators do not come to bow." The humans returned to their place in the center. Their leader adjusted his tie, his eyes sweeping across the chamber. "We will speak," he said calmly, "and you will listen." It was not arrogance, it was certainty. The kind of certainty that only comes from those who have already survived worse. Every alien in that chamber felt the same chill. The galaxy had expected diplomats, but what stood before them were predators in business suits. And for the first time, the council wondered, had they invited allies, or had they invited their future rulers? Predators in suits. The chamber was still heavy with silence. No alien dared to move. The humans stood as if they owned the room, their suits sharp, their eyes sharper. The council leader tried to regain control, his mandibles clicking nervously. "Then let us begin discussions," he said. Let us talk of peace, trade, and cooperation. The words were the same words always spoken, safe words, old words, but the humans tilted their heads as if the words were strange to them. The human leader raised his hand slowly, silencing the chamber again. Peace, he said, is decided by those who have the strength to keep it. Murmurs broke out among the aliens. This was not how diplomacy worked. Diplomacy was gentle, full of compromise, but the humans spoke as if compromise was weakness. Their calm tone carried weight like chains, and every chain pulled tighter around the council. Another alien delegate covered in feathers stood and tried to smile. Perhaps you misunderstand. This council works through unity, through equal voices. The human leader's eyes fixed on him like a hawk spotting prey. Equal voices? He asked softly. In your unity, some are weaker, some stronger. Do not lie to us. The feathered alien sat down, feathers trembling. The humans began to walk again, circling like predators around a herd. Their polished shoes echoed across the chamber. Each step was slow, steady, controlled. It was not wandering, it was hunting. One human, a woman with cold blue eyes, leaned near a council bench. She whispered something too soft for most to hear, but one alien caught it. Your empire is dying. You just don't see it yet, she said, then walked on. The alien froze, every scale on his body shivering. How could she know? How could she see weakness so quickly? The council tried again to lead the talk. We ask Earth to share resources, to share technology, to build trust, one said. The humans only exchanged glances. Their leader adjusted his cuff and spoke. We share nothing for free. Trade is. Blood, power, survival. If you want something, prove your worth. The words hit the chamber like thunder. Aliens shifted, some angry, some afraid. The humans were not begging for acceptance. They were measuring the galaxy, weighing it, deciding who would stand and who would fall. One bold alien, his body plated in bronze armor, stood tall. You insult the council, you shame yourself. Leave before you bring war upon your kind, he shouted. The humans stopped, and for the first time they smiled. Not kind smiles, not warm smiles, but the sharp smile of wolves. The human leader looked at him and replied, War is not brought upon us, war is brought upon you. The bronze-armored alien faltered. The council felt the weight of those words. The humans had not come to beg for peace. They had come to remind the galaxy that Earth did not fear war. One by one, the humans took their seats, not at the edges like newcomers, but near the center. They sat like they belonged, like the chamber was already theirs. Their suits did not look like clothing anymore, they looked like uniforms. Uniforms of a species that had turned business into battle, negotiation into war, and words into weapons. The chamber had never felt so small. Every alien realized that these humans, these diplomats, were not diplomats at all. They were predators in suits, and predators did not share the table. Predators claimed it. The hidden passed after. The meeting ended. The council chamber buzzed with fear and confusion. The humans had left with the same calm steps they had arrived with. Their sharp suits and sharper words still echoed in every mind. Behind closed doors, the council gathered again. Delegates leaned close, whispering, hissing, growling in low tones. What are these humans? One asked, his scales rattling with unease. They are too confident, too cold. Another replied. They speak like rulers, not like petitioners. The insectoid leader tapped his silver mandibles and ordered, Bring me the files. Bring me everything about Earth. Archivists moved quickly. Screens flickered. Data poured across the chamber walls. Histories unfolded. Wars, revolutions, endless battles. The galaxy had seen violent worlds before, but none like this. None where war was a constant heartbeat. For thousands of years, humans had fought, not just enemies, but themselves. Nations rising, nations burning, weapons growing sharper with each generation. Where others had broken under war, Earth had hardened. Conflict was not their weakness. It was their forge. One alien gasped as an image of Earth appeared. Blue oceans, green lands, white storms. It looked beautiful, but the records told another story. Predators everywhere, a delegate whispered, reading the report. Creatures, with claws, venom, teeth sharper than metal. Yet humans survived them all. The council studied deeper. Natural disasters, famine, plagues, extinction events, every disaster that should have ended them. Yet they endured. And every time they endured, they became stronger. One elder, his eyes pale with age, muttered, "They were never diplomats, they were never meant to be. Their entire history shaped them into predators." More files appeared, records of human wars beyond Earth, small colonies, battles in space, fleets clashing among the stars. The reports showed precision, ruthless efficiency. Aliens read with unease how humans never wasted a strike, how they fought not just with weapons but with strategy, deception, patience. The suits they wore were not fashion. They were a signal, order, discipline, control. One delegate, feathers bristling, leaned back and whispered, "We thought they came dressed like us, but in truth they are dressed like themselves. This is who they are. Hunters who hide their claws until it is too late." The insectoid leader stared at the glowing records. The more he read, the colder he felt. Every empire in the chamber had weaknesses. Every empire had moments of decline. But Earth's history showed no collapse, only transformation. They broke themselves and rebuilt stronger, again and again, as if pain was their teacher, and war their eternal companion. One frightened delegate rose, his voice shaking. "We cannot allow them to sit among us. They will not join. They will take. They will not be partners. They will be predators among sheep." But another delegate, smaller and wiser, shook her head. "And what choice do we have? If we deny them, they will still rise. They do not need our approval. They do not need our votes. They only need time." The chamber fell silent. For once, no one argued. The truth was clear. The galaxy had underestimated Earth. They had expected a child at the table. Instead, they had invited a hunter into the herd. The insectoid leader finally spoke. "Send word to all empires, let them prepare. The humans are not diplomats, they are predators, and predators do not sit quietly. They wait, they watch, and when the moment comes, they strike." As the word spread through the chamber, a chill ran across every delegate. The galaxy had opened its doors, but it was too late to close them, for humanity had stepped inside, and behind their calm suits and careful smiles, the hidden past of Earth had been revealed, and it promised only one thing: the predators had come to stay. The test. The galaxy was restless. Rumors spread faster than light. The humans were not like other newcomers. They were cold, sharp, and dangerous. Whispers called them predators. Whispers called them hunters, and fear spread from world to world. Not all believed the fear. Some thought it was exaggeration. Some thought the council had grown weak. And so, one proud empire decided to test Earth. The Dravax Dominion, a reptilian race known for their fleets. They laughed at the stories. Predators in suits? Their warlords scoffed. "They hide behind words, but let us see their claws." And so the Dravax prepared a display, a show of power that would humble humanity before the galaxy. The day of the test arrived. The council gathered in orbit above, a neutral world, a vast arena in the void. Here fleets often demonstrated strength. It was tradition, a way to remind young races of their place. The Dravax ships arrived first. Hundreds of war cruisers bristling with weapons, their hulls gleamed in the starlight. Engines burned bright like suns. Their warlord's voice boomed through the chamber's speakers. "Behold, the might of the Dravax Dominion." The humans entered last. Not hundreds of ships, not even dozens, but 5. Only 5 sleek vessels glided into the arena. The aliens laughed. Pathetic, some whispered. Arrogant, others hissed. But the humans sat calm, their suits neat, their eyes unshaken. The test began. The Dravax ships roared forward, weapons glowing. But the human ships did not rush. They moved slow, deliberate, precise. Their formation shifted like blades crossing in silence, and then, without warning, they struck. Beams of light cut across the void, not wildfire, not wasted shots. Every strike hit perfectly. The first Dravax cruiser vanished in flames. The second split in two. The third lost all power and drifted like a corpse. The galaxy watched in horror. It was not just the destruction. It was the way the humans fought. Cold, exact, merciless. Each movement looked planned. Each attack felt like a predator striking only once, never wasting energy, never missing, within minutes. The Dravax fleet was broken, ships scattered, weapons silenced. The warlord's voice, once loud and proud, was gone. Only static filled the chamber. The test had become a massacre. The council sat frozen. No one moved, no one breathed. They had seen fleets clash before, but never like this. The humans had destroyed without effort, without hesitation, without joy. It was not celebration, it was calculation. The human leader stood, adjusting his tie. He looked at the council and spoke softly. "This was not war," he said. "This was warning." The words rippled through the chamber. Every alien delegate knew the truth now. The humans were not desperate to belong. They were not seeking protection. They were announcing their place. They were showing the galaxy what would happen to those who doubted. One delegate whispered. They smiled at death. Another trembled. No, worse, they didn't smile at all. And that silence, that calm, was more terrifying than fire. The test was over. The Dravax had been humbled. The galaxy had been warned. And the council now understood. Earth was not here to learn the rules. Earth was here to write them. The council chamber was filled with unease. The echoes of the Dravax defeat still hung in the air. No one spoke of it openly, but every delegate remembered. 5 human ships had torn through a mighty fleet, and the humans had not even looked proud. They had looked calm, as if everything had gone exactly as planned. Now the humans returned to the chamber. Their polished shoes tapped against the floor, their suits still perfect, their eyes still sharp. They sat at the center as if they belonged there. No hesitation, no request for permission. Predators never asked permission. The insectoid leader tried to steady his voice. "Representatives of Earth," he said, "we have seen your power. We respect it." His mandibles clicked nervously. "But power alone does not make allies. Speak then. What is it you seek?" The human leader leaned forward, resting his hands on the table. His gaze swept across the chamber, meeting every eye. "We do not seek allies," he said, his voice steady. "We seek agreements, deals, and control where needed. Partnership is not given freely. It is earned through strength and loyalty." A shiver ran across the room. Every word felt heavy, like stone being placed on their backs. The humans were not begging for entry, they were laying out terms, and the terms sounded less like offers and more like commands. One feathered delegate stood, feathers trembling. "And if we refuse?" he asked, his voice high and weak. The human leader's lips curved into that sharp, almost smile. "Refusal is your right," he replied softly. "But so is extinction." The chamber froze again. No threat had ever been spoken so calmly. It was not shouted. It was not forced. It was delivered like a fact, as if the outcome had already been decided. Another delegate, armored in bronze, tried to resist. "You cannot rule the galaxy with fear," he said firmly, but his voice cracked. Near the end, the human woman with cold blue eyes tilted her head. "Fear?" she asked. "No, not fear, clarity. We are not here to frighten you, we are here to show you the truth. The galaxy respects strength, nothing else." The delegates shifted uneasily, some angry, some quiet, some secretly agreeing. Because deep down they knew the humans were not wrong. Every empire in that chamber had risen by conquest. Every empire had crushed someone weaker to stand where they were. But the humans, newcomers from a small blue world, had simply spoken aloud the truth. No one dared admit. The human leader reached into his case and placed documents on the table, clean, sharp contracts. He slid them across the polished surface with careful precision. "These are our terms," he said. "Trade routes, security arrangements, and influence. You will sign them, not because you must, but because you cannot afford not to. One delegate picked up a sheet and read. It was not written with requests, it was written with certainty. The humans had already planned the future. The contracts were not invitations, they were blueprints. The insectoid leader's mandibles clicked nervously again. He wanted to argue, he wanted to fight, but the memory of the Dravak's burning fleet silenced him. He knew what refusal meant, and he knew his people could not afford to face it. At last, one small delegate from a weak and poor species raised his hand. "I will sign," he said quietly. All eyes turned to him, his voice shook, but there was something else in his eyes, not just fear but hope. He knew that under human dominance, at least the smaller races might finally be protected by predators who feared nothing. The human leader nodded once, a slow, deliberate motion. "Wise," he said. And one by one, other delegates began to give in, some out of fear, some out of calculation, some because they knew the humans would lead regardless of what the council decided. The first signature was the crack in the dam. The second was the flood. Soon, the chamber was full of resigned voices, pens scratched against paper, claws marked contracts, digital seals flashed across the screens, and Earth's place in the galaxy was carved in ink and light. When it was done, the human leader stood. He adjusted his tie with calm precision. "This is not the end," he said. "This is the beginning. You have signed with us today, but tomorrow you will follow us. That is the nature of predators. We do not walk beside the herd, we lead it." The chamber fell into silence again. But this silence was not just fear, it was acceptance. Bitter and heavy, the deal had been made, and humanity had taken its first step as the galaxy's new rulers. The fear. The contracts were signed, the ink was dry, the seals locked, but the echoes of that day did not stay inside the chamber. They spread, carried by whispers, carried by trembling voices across the stars. In marketplaces, in military halls, in quiet homes, the same words repeated. The humans are not diplomats. They are predators. Some spoke it with anger, others with awe, but all spoke it with fear. The great empires of the galaxy sent spies. They studied Earth again, they searched for weakness, for softness. But every report returned the same. Humans had endured storms, plagues, predators, and wars. They had survived. What should have broken them? And now they carried that same survival into the stars. One empire's ruler demanded answers from his council. Why do they frighten us? They are few. Their fleets are small. But his general replied, because they fight as if numbers do not matter, because they strike like wolves, because they are calm when others would scream. The galaxy had seen conquerors before, but conquerors shouted, conquerors boasted. Humans did not. They walked in silence. They smiled without warmth. They spoke without mercy. That silence was worse than thunder. On smaller worlds, the fear turned into something different. Hope, the weak. Races, the ones always crushed between larger empires. They looked at Earth and whispered, perhaps predators can protect us better than politicians. Perhaps wolves are safer than serpents. But even their hope was mixed with fear. For predators may protect the herd, but only if the herd follows. In the council's private chambers, the insectoid leader confessed to his advisors, we did not invite allies, we invited rulers, and soon, even we will bow. His words carried no anger, only resignation. The human delegation returned to Earth, but their shadow remained. Every empire felt it. Every leader dreamed of it. The polished suits, the calm voices, the burning Dravak ships. Nightmares carried the image of humans walking calmly through halls where no one dared stop them. Some planned resistance. The Dravaks, humiliated, began to rebuild. They whispered of revenge, but their whispers shook with fear, even their strongest. Captains could not forget how quickly their ships were cut apart. Others planned alliances. Secret meetings formed in hidden chambers. Perhaps together we can hold them back, leaders said. But even as they spoke, their eyes lowered, because, deep down, they knew the truth. The humans would not stop. They did not bend. They did not compromise. Across the stars, a new name began to spread, not just humans, but the predators in suits, a name spoken with dread, a name spoken with respect, a name that carried weight heavier than fleets in academies. Alien students studied recordings of the humans, how they walked, how they spoke. They tried to copy the calm, they tried to copy the silence, but none could, because the silence of humans was not learned. It was born from centuries of blood. One young alien watching the footage whispered to his mentor, "They do not look at us as equals." The mentor nodded slowly. "No, they look at us as prey, or as tools, and maybe, if we are lucky, as allies, but never as equals." The fear was no longer just in the chamber. It was in the stars themselves. It lingered in every negotiation, in every treaty. Every time humans appeared, the air grew heavier. Every time their shoes clicked on polished floors, silence followed. And every time their leader adjusted his tie, entire empires felt their throats tighten. The galaxy had expected diplomats, but what they had found instead was a force that could not be undone, and the whispers grew into prophecy. They will lead, they will rule, and one day they will not ask for signatures, they will simply take. The fear was alive now. It fed on itself. It grew in shadows, and every empire knew. The predators were already among them, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The new order. The galaxy had changed, not with explosions, not with endless wars, but with silence. The silence of polished shoes, calm voices, and sharp suits. The contracts were signed, the deals sealed. But everyone knew the truth. It was not a partnership. It was the first step of a new rule. Humanity had not joined the galaxy. Humanity had claimed it. On distant worlds, leaders bowed their heads when human ships appeared, even when those ships were few, even when they carried no visible weapons. Because the galaxy had learned the truth, the weapon was not just steel or fire, the weapon was the human will, the unshakable calm of predators who had survived everything. Soon a pattern began to emerge. Trade routes shifted under human control. Disputes between smaller races were settled only when humans stepped in. Even old enemies listened when humans spoke, because in their silence was the weight of inevitability. One insectoid official whispered to his aide, "They walk like they already own the stars." And the aide replied, trembling, "Perhaps they always have." Across the empires, symbols began to change. The suit, once dismissed as strange human fashion, became a mark of fear, a mark of power. Even alien leaders began to copy it, draping themselves in dark cloth to mimic the human presence. But no matter how well they dressed, they could not copy the eyes that had looked into storms, into wars, into endless death, and had never blinked. Smaller races gathered around Earth, not out of love, but out of survival. "We are safer in their shadow," they said, "because predators who lead the herd will protect it, as long as the herd obeys," but not all obeyed. The Dravak's dominion, still burning with shame, still rebuilding their fleets, launched secret attacks along human-controlled routes. They thought to strike back in the dark, but the humans were already waiting. Their response was swift, cold, absolute. The Dravak's warlord vanished, his fleet scattered to dust, and his name was erased from history. The message was clear: defy the new order, and you will not exist. The council itself had grown quieter, where once voices shouted and fought. Now they lowered their tones, waiting, always waiting, because every delegate knew the final word would come from Earth. And once Earth spoke, no one dared argue. One veteran delegate, old and tired, whispered to his apprentice, "Do you see what has happened here? They did not conquer us with armies. They conquered us with presence. They came in silence, and silence has chained us all." On Earth, the human leaders watched calmly. They did not shout their victories. They did not demand titles or crowns. They simply watched as the galaxy shifted around them, step by step, deal by deal, fear by fear, until every star was caught in their orbit. And so a new order was born, not with banners, not with songs, but with the quiet dominance of predators. In suits, The galaxy had expected diplomats, it had expected smiles and soft words. Instead, it had met hunters wrapped in silk and steel. Hunters who did not beg, who did not bow. Hunters who had come not to join, but to lead, as the council chamber emptied. One quiet evening, an alien delegate turned to his companion and whispered, "They will not stop here. They will not stop with contracts. This is only the beginning." His companion shivered and asked, "Then what comes next?" The delegate looked at the empty human seats, and his voice shook as he answered, "The age of predators, the age of humans."